Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Million Dollar Media. I'm your host Max Kellerhalls, and with me today we have.
Cat.
And today, for our Valentine's Day special, we are going to be talking about When Harry Met Sally, in tribute to the late great Rob Reiner. But yeah, basically, this is pretty much about two people who knew each other somewhat from college. They both moved to New York, and you basically follow them throughout their lives. They're basically their 20s till their mid 30s and see how their relationship progresses. This stars Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan, as well as Carrie Fisher, which was a surprise to see. Because as a huge Star Wars fan, it's just always cool to see Carrie Fisher in things other than Star Wars too. But she's really good in this movie as well. I knew that a lot of people love this movie, but I always don't like to go into things with such a high bar. But man, this one really worked for me. I really like this movie.
I really enjoyed it too. I love watching rom-coms in general, so it was definitely up my alley.
Like I like a good rom com, but they're not my go to. So, but for this one really worked for me. I think it's mostly because it's just kind of well. First of all, it's like a classic rom com. Like this is like late. This is 1989 rom com. So this is where all of your famous tropes start to really form and become popular and throughout media. And I feel like this one is just so good. It's like you see its influence in other things, like other rom coms take from this, like the setting of New York, the mundane kind of tone. And I kind of like the mundanity of the movie in that you see their friendship start to form, and then through their friendship, you start to see their relationship start to grow, and how rocky that can kind of be. And there's no real cinematic flair to the movie, but like the writing is so well done that these characters feel very, very real. And both these actors, Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal, have such great chemistry. And I kind of wanted to get your opinion on that, Kat. What did you think of their overall like chemistry and how they work together?
I think them as actors are also really good at working together,
Hmm.
and they kind of have some kind of synergy going on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they have good chemistry. They feel like they're friends in real life. And so there's
Yes.
moments where their little bickering and rants and arguments between each other seem very real. Got to give credit to both the writer and the director in this case. I know there's two writers, one of them being Rob Reiner, but the Rob Reiner also directed this movie. And yeah, you could just tell that he had an idea of what these characters are and just really worked with them well to create this like believable relationship. And I'm kind of curious now, what did you think of them as characters and like their overall relationship?
I think that they did a really good job at making their relationship and the evolution of it very realistic.
Hmm.
It felt like this was a story straight out of just a regular kind of person you would kind of come across on the street with, or like if you get to know them and meet them and you ask, how did you guys meet?
Hmm.
This is like a classic kind of story. I also really enjoyed that they interweaved a ton of actual real life couples in
Mm.
the actual film. And like it was just so sweet
Hmm.
and tells you like this is like all these different stories and like how everyone's journeys intersected
Hmm.
and became like they're happily ever after. And so as you're watching the movie too, following Harry and Sally, like you get an insight of another kind of story that could happen to pretty much anybody.
Hmm. Are you talking about like the old couples that like are being interviewed throughout the movie?
Yes,
I love that stuff
very.
too. It also just kind of reminds me of just like grandparents or like other family members tell the story about how they meet. And you're just like, damn, you cannot do that today. Like a lot of their stories are just like, yeah, I stalked her until she said yes. And I
Slid
kept.
into her DM.
Yeah, exactly. We got married, then we got divorced. He had another relationship, and then they eventually came back around to each other at the funeral or some shit like that.
Mhm.
These little interviews throughout the movie that ultimately come back around in the end with Harry and Sally in their interview, and I thought that was really sweet. And it's like this beautiful like button at the end, and like their little happy ever after, like their little denouement is this interview, And I really like that. There's just so many fun scenes in this movie. Is there any that kind of sticks out to you?
It has to be the iconic scene, and I don't know if you can show it on YouTube.
We'll see what we could do. Probably no audio,
Okay,
but
yeah, but the famous iconic
yeah.
scene of Sally
Mm-hmm.
refuting Harry's response about
Mm-hmm.
faking an orgasm.
Well, he's like, yeah, I can make any girl come, or like any girl have an orgasm, and she's like, really? You sure about that?
Yeah, how do you actually know that?
Mm-hmm. And I like that scene too. Not only is it really funny and kind of hot, but it also allows her to finally get a little bit more open. Because throughout the movie, she's a bit more reserved, and Harry's the one that's a little bit more outgoing and willing to do stuff. He's not afraid of like public embarrassment. You know what I mean?
Yes, and Sally is also quite uptight.
Quite very. And so that scene allows her to really have control over the space that she's in and be a little bit more outgoing and, not afraid of like public embarrassment. Because that scene's really funny. And the button at the end of it.
I'll have what she's having.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of really good scenes in this movie too. Like I'm kind of curious from like the profession that you're in, you deal with a lot of couples. So I was kind of curious to have you on in this episode specifically, talking about what advice you could possibly give to people, or like what works with this couple, and like what they do right or what they do wrong for that matter. How people out there can, I don't know, find that relationship that they're looking for.
Spoiler alert, Harry believes that men and women can't be friends because, quote, the sex part gets in the way, unquote. So because of that, we really think that Harry's going to stick to this idea, and then he ends up at one point when he meets Sally again down the future 5 years later, he catches up with Sally, and then towards the end of catching up, he like suggests to become friends with Sally, and that completely disqualified or like took away from his actual argument in the beginning. And like that concluded with Harry and Sally not actually being friends in that point. And then it had to like fast forward to 5 years later. So like I feel like Harry was a bit of a hypocrite there, and something like sticking to what your word is really important in not only friendships but relationships. I think that was like one thing that stood out to me about why it didn't work in that time period when their lives intersected.
You don't also think that it's just because that idea of men and women can't be friends is also just very flawed, because you also have to consider that him as a person was very much someone who would use, like, he went out and tried to have sex with as many people as he could. Like at the beginning of the movie, he has that one girl that you never see again in the film, and then you just constantly see him throughout this movie like go on other dates with people. He starts to date younger women at one point. So you can also see that he doesn't really value women as nothing other than just for sex. So that's why he had that like mindset that men and women can't be friends. And I honestly see that tagline or that mantra as not as a good life philosophy. Like it's not a good life philosophy because you can be friends with whoever you want. It's more showing what kind of person he is as someone who just kind of like hits it and quits it.
Yes, and I come from the belief that men and women can be friends. And for that to work, like I said, Harry needed to be not only more trusting, like going through with what he says, but also the biggest thing is men and women need to at least communicate boundaries and respect boundaries. For that to be so upfront in the friendship, it will not progress to a relationship because there are clear boundaries and all the other good stuff that comes with a healthy reciprocal friendship.
To that point, another scene that really shows their boundary, at least the pushing of boundaries, but then how to apologize from pushing them, is the scene where like they're out front of one of their apartment buildings. I can't remember which specific one it was, but like, and they're having an argument about how he just wants her to like just be upset for once, and he himself cannot understand why she has gone through all this stuff in her life and doesn't ever get upset about it. Like, he's constantly thinking about this person that got away from him and using sex as a way to like cope with it. And he's trying to put that feeling of like just using other people to either get revenge or to cope, and trying to tell her that she should do it, and she is telling him like, no, I'm not that kind of person. I don't do that. I don't use sex as a way to get revenge. And then he realizes where he messed up and he apologizes. Like, I think that scene shows the growth that Harry has gone through, and also the healthy relationship that these two have at the time, of being able to like recognize where he stepped too far and how he doesn't want to hurt the only person that actually makes him like, is there for him, like one of his only true friends that he has. And he apologizes and saw where he messed up.
100% agree. I also like, and it also creates like a realistic feel to it too, and it's something that I would see in friendships that form as well, like, is the constant scenes between Harry and Sally calling each other when they're watching stuff from in their respective homes. And I thought that was very authentic to watch too, because friendships do also require you to connect on that kind of level. You constantly can like call your friend whenever you want and have that comfort. You can watch whatever you want together. You can enjoy all these different activities without necessarily thinking about it too much. And they were having such a progression of friendship that they were able to just like be on the phone for hours, talking, watching the same thing from a distance. And I thought that was so sweet.
Yeah, I like that scene too. One little fun note that I do have, I wrote down that one of my favorite little details, and it just goes to show Harry as a character, especially towards the beginning of the movie, is he'll pick up a book, read like the first couple pages, and then skip to the end. Like, I think he points it out a couple times, but like it's one of those things where you have to notice him do it more. And one of those books is this book called Misery by Stephen King, which was the next film that Rob Reiner directed. So I thought that was a little fun little detail. I kind of want to get your opinion on this too, not only as what you do for your profession, but also from a movie thing that I really like, is that this movie doesn't do the stereotypical thing of like they fall in love within a very short amount of time. Like, this movie takes place between the span of years, nearly a decade.
I think that the detail of it spanning over so many years was also like a very, I keep saying realistic, but that's the only word that comes to mind. Like, it's relatable, it's real. It's definitely like something that is, as someone can watch and relate to. That's the only thing I can come up with that brings authenticity to the viewer, that friendships can transcend into relationships, especially having so much exposure, proximity, and unique experiences together. So I thought that was a great touch too, to continuously follow a timeline instead of make them take a leap of faith within just such a short amount of time and barely knowing each other too, to just say that this is a happily ever after, the shoe fits in Cinderella, and we're off to being married.
Well, it's interesting because we've been talking a lot about how they are as friends, and I'm kind of curious about like what you thought of like them taking that next step with the scene of them having sex for the first time.
The context that they were leading to sex to begin with was that I believe Sally was very hurt that she found out her ex-boyfriend Joe was getting married finally.
Yeah.
And she had to call Harry very frantically and like hysterically crying about it. Obviously, she's hurt to find this out because she really did care for Joe. So typically, you'd want to comfort your friend who's so hysterically lost in the moment. So Harry went over to comfort Sally at her apartment. And then, as expected for the plot at least, they did end up having sex. It was just following kind of a typical plot of Sally getting hurt and crying, and then to comfort it just somehow leads to a desperate kiss and then leads to desperate sex or comfort sex. Does that make sense? Like it led
Yeah,
to that.
there's different kinds of sexual relationships. I mean, or at least Sally assumes that he was doing it out of pity, when there was more there, at least. In a real life circumstance, it's incredibly messy. I wouldn't have gone about it like that. I would at least have to be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Before we continue, are you okay with this? But for what I do like about this movie is that these characters are flawed. Like, at the beginning of the movie, they are both very flawed characters. And throughout the movie, they learn to, like, grow and mature. And that's one of the things I do like about this movie. This is a little bit of growing pains situation where it's like, well, there is consent there. So there's nothing, like, illegal going on. It's just, it's a messy situation through and through. And those are, like, really hard to, like, navigate most of the time. And I think, like, the film does a good job of, like, showing that messiness and the repercussions of it, because even they are both like, what did that mean? And even in the scene, like, after they have sex, you see Harry just, like, staring up into the ceiling, like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah, I think I definitely agree too with what you said. In the end, it was kind of leading to that because, I mean, Harry was comforting Sally physically as well by, like, kind of rubbing her back, I think he did. He handed her tissue too, which I thought was a great touch. He just sat
fun.
next to her, comforting her, and didn't Sally initiate the kiss?
Right? I forgot who did, but I think he did.
Okay.
I can't remember. I'll put a little editor's note in when I watch the scene again, but, like, I think he was the one who initiated the first kiss, and then it just went from there. Which I think the tissue giving, great touch. The back rubbing, that's okay. I personally would not have initiated the kiss in that moment. I think that may have been the step too far. But again, it's not like, from, like, a modern person's lens where, like, everything is walking on eggshells. I can see it as, like, wouldn't have done that. But, like, nothing in this movie ever comes across as like creepy or weird, in my opinion. I kind of want to get your opinion on that. Like, is there ever a moment where it's like, oh, I wouldn't have done that?
Well, I do think the kiss and proceeding to sex was, in that certain raw moment, was probably not the best decision. Especially since they obviously fought very badly about it at a wedding reception.
Yeah.
And then ended up with, like, Sally just saying, we can't be friends anymore because of this. And even though Harry wanted to try and, like,
make it work,
mend it. Yeah. So that definitely was not the right move. When anybody is just, like, in that kind of mental state and, like, off balance with their emotions, it's always best to, and even if you're, like, the opposite sexes, there's those permission questions that are important to ask before touch, kind of boundary of, like, is it okay if I, give you a quick hug, a quick squeeze kind of deal? Not, like, just go in for it, because what if the person doesn't like being touched if they're crying? They don't like to be consoled like that. Yeah. They only like to be consoled by receiving words of affirmation or something.
And I will say, like, I also think they do wrong is, after that moment, they really never have a discussion about, like, where they are, like, what the relationship is now. They just kind of assume that they can go back to what it was without having a real discussion about it. Like, they talk to their other friends about it, which I find that scene really funny. They're calling their respective friends, but their friends are in bed together.
Oh my god, I forgot about that. That was hilarious.
I love that moment. I love the direction of that moment, using, like, the split diopters. But they never went to each other about that until it was way too late. And then it ended up at the wedding, and it just blew up there, and they really didn't get to talk to each other. I don't know. I feel like you can have that moment that they had and recover from it, but you just have to put in the work to talk with that other person and have good communication.
And expectations going forward.
Exactly. I didn't think about the expectations part, but yeah, you're right. But I don't know. I don't knock everything like the movie gets wrong when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like honestly, I think the film just does a good job of just showing these people as you kept saying, like real people, and it being realistic, and that it is messy. It is difficult to navigate these kind of feelings between people. And honestly, the fact that it does get it wrong is a plus in my book because it just shows how complicated it really is. Like a film that even to this day holds up, and like sometimes you get those films where you're like, this is definitely a product of its time, but this movie has this really good timeless feel in that like there's nothing in it that really dates it and isn't relatable to anyone currently, even though they use like landlines to talk to each other. The way they talk to each other is just like how a friend would be on like a Zoom call or a Discord call for that matter at night with a friend talking about these kind of like what show they're watching. It's this timeless movie that anybody can watch at any point. And I don't know, I really like that.
Yes, I agree that there's a timeless feel to this. Like you said, it can be translated to any kind of generation, and anyone can really go through a similar roller coaster of events with the same kind of person in life like that.
I don't think this film should ever be remade because I think it being so timeless, there's nothing really you can add to it. Because even with the messy qualities that we were talking about, that doesn't date the film. That's just human nature.
Yes, humans are complex.
What did you think about the ending of the film? The New Year's Eve sequence?
That was really well scripted. I loved everything about that one. Especially the fact that he knew her so intimately for all these years, that he loves every part of her, the flawed parts, quote unquote, and the beautiful parts that come together so nicely and make her who she is in the end. And he doesn't want anybody else. He just wants her imperfect and perfect self. And I think that's a beautifully kind of written storyline, and also something that I think is personally something everyone should aspire to kind of be in, that kind of relationship where you can love each other for the good and the bad and be there through thick and thin, and all of those related to what I just said.
I got a little emotional during that moment. I was like, oh, that's just really sweet. I like the way that both Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan play that moment. Like, I think Meg Ryan does a really good job throughout this entire film. Like, she's given a lot of the very emotional moments in the film, but not only does she handle them in a way that doesn't come across as too much woe is me, but she plays it in a way that's kind of funny sometimes. Like in the scene where she like is breaking down after finding that her ex is getting married. Like there's moments where she kind of becomes a little lucid just from crying too much. He'll say something funny, start to laugh, and then come back to crying again. Like she's really good in this movie and like portraying all of those very complex emotions. And even in that moment where she's at the very end where she's like, I hate you. There's something so special about an actor being able to do more than just say the lines. The emotions that she conveys through just her eyes of like, she's saying something, but you know that deep down that's not what she means. Like she's just incredibly annoyed with like everything that's led up to this moment and like this up and down of their relationship, and then for it to just finally all of the truth come out. Like, she's upset with him, but damn it, she does love him. And I really like that moment too. Like it's just an incredible ending at New Year's too. And I kind of like that the film doesn't do the thing where it's like they kiss at New Year's. You hear New Year's go on in the background behind them, but you don't care. You're like, I'm so focused on what's going on in front of me that everybody's celebrating while they're having an argument. And then finally they come together. Oh, I just think that the scene was just from a directing point of view, I just think the film in that scene is just done so well. Oh, I do have a fun little trivia that I found out. Originally, the film was supposed to end with them not getting together.
What?
Yeah. However, and this is where it's kind of getting a little bittersweet because of everything that's happened recently. Rob Reiner met his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, while working on this film. And because of that, he changed the ending. Because he kind of found that love again. And he was like, these characters deserve each other. because he was going through a divorce before working on this movie. Like, he had a wife of like 10 years that he was with, Penny Marshall, and then through this movie he found the true love of his life, and they were married up until their untimely end. Yeah, and that's why we have the ending that we have, which is crazy that that wasn't a part of the film throughout the whole process. Like, I don't know when exactly the ending changed. It might have been early development. That's why the writer then could change certain things. But like, it was a beautiful love story, not only in front of the camera but behind the camera as well. That's why I chose this film for this year to be our Valentine's Day special. Yeah, is there anything you want to say before we wrap it up?
Go watch it.
I just want to say real quick before we wrap it up, rest in peace, Rob and Michelle Singer Reiner. I'm not really going to get into what happened or really my thoughts on it. I'm going to leave that to the official courts and the justice system to take care of that. But what I will say is that Rob Reiner was one of the most underrated directors out there. He directed movies like Misery. He directed movies like The Princess Bride, Spinal Tap, Stand By Me. All around incredible director, and overall just an incredible person from everything that we have been told that everybody has said about him. He seemed like just a really upstanding guy, very, very politically minded, and he will be missed. And this film, amongst all of his other films, Princess Bride is one of my favorite films of all time. That's all I have to really say. Rest in peace, both Rob and Michelle Singer Reiner. And I guess one thing I can also say is fuck Donald Trump. Thank you all for listening to this Valentine's Day special. I know that it's not a traditional fun game where it's like a hear me out or a smash or pass, but I wanted to do something a little bit more special, or do something a little bit nice where we can just have a discussion about a good movie, because that's what we are as a channel. We like talking about good movies and bad ones sometimes because it's just fun. But this is one of the good ones. And with everything going on in the world, I just think that we need a little bit of like something nice out there. So hopefully this video gets you to watch this film, possibly rethink how you handle both your friendships but also your relationships. Thank you, Kat, for being a part of this video as always. There is a whole playlist if you want to check out other videos that she's a part of, including the short film that we made for her. So yeah, I hope you guys like this video. Please like, subscribe, and share. Please follow us on our Patreon. And yeah, keep watching our videos and keep watching movies. Goodbye.